Hanging courses onto your student's high school academic framework that you've now created is going to explode your confidence for homeschooling high school. So we've now covered steps 1 and 2 in creating your high schooler's academic plan, establishing graduation requirements, and determining which subjects will be taken when during high school and what would be taken as a full credit course or a half credit course. Those were the very easy steps leading up to actually hanging courses and classes onto the framework, which is where we are today in step 3, courses that fit. And as any homeschooler knows, choosing curriculum, courses, classes, etc. can be challenging because there is so much out there. And you need to evaluate what's best for your student in terms of content, delivery method, parental involvement, etc. So our objective for this video lesson is to identify viable courses for each of the subject areas across the 4 years as best as we can at this point, without necessarily getting ultra specific. Remember, this is a flexible framework, and the years that are still further out won't be as nailed down as those that are coming up. Hey, I'm Kathleen Rumford, and just as a reminder, I homeschooled my daughters across 15 years through high school and dual enrollment, and I'm coming alongside you as a guide to help you not only build your teen's academic plan, but to also build your confidence and knowledge for the homeschooling high school journey. Today's video is the most rigorous of the 4 steps, so buckle your seatbelt. But there is so much value jam-packed in here that I encourage you to take the time to go through the entire video. Some of what I share is beneficial to learn as early as possible in the high school journey. To make sure you don't miss any of this series or other videos on homeschooling high school, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. By you liking and or subscribing, even commenting, you're telling YouTube that this was valuable and they'll push it out to more homeschoolers to watch. So let's click over to our next framework file, and you can see that we have 2 column headings we'll need for step 3, course name and course type. You should have those in your student file also. I'm just going to start plugging in some courses or hanging some courses onto the framework that makes sense for this particular student, and you're going to do the same for your student. But before we do anything, let's quickly look at what I pulled from Virginia's graduation requirements and North Carolina's grad requirements that we looked at in the previous step 1 lesson on graduation requirements. I want to show you what they each say for science and history in their notes, but there are specifics for other subject areas as well that may be helpful for you to check out. For science, North Carolina's guidelines have physical science, biology, and earth or environmental science, no chemistry. Virginia's guidelines have earth science, biology, chemistry, and physics. For history, North Carolina has state and U.S. history, American history, world history, and econ personal finance, while Virginia has state and U.S. history, state and U.S. government, which I think is important, and 2 courses in world history or geography or both. Now, you don't have to follow state guidelines unless your state says you have to. But for me, as I was just starting out and trying to figure everything out, I thought, well, why not? There's some flexibility built into the specifications. They're not stringent. And since my daughters would be competing for spots in college with others in our county and state, I figured this was a good starting point, and we'd just see where we landed by the end of high school. You can determine for yourself if you want to do the same thing with whatever graduation requirements you're using. I just found this to be super helpful. So let's look at English for 9th grade for our sample students framework. We've set it up so they need to fulfill 1 English credit in 9th grade. So I'm just calling this English 9. You don't need to be ultra specific right now as to what English 9 means, but you'll most likely want to identify your specific courses for the next year by the spring of the previous year. So the spring of 8th grade, you're starting to nail down your 9th grade classes, including what English 9 specifically entails. Courses that you're paying an outside teacher for, doing online, or maybe in a hybrid model with a local school, or even as a co-op, you're most likely figuring those out in the spring. If you're going to be the one teaching the class yourself, I recommend that you first research options and opportunities online and maybe use Kathy Duffy's curriculum guide, which I've linked in the description, so you can narrow things down. You can also ask questions about curriculum in Facebook or Instagram groups, which most of you already know. Then you can touch and feel curriculum at state homeschool conventions with curriculum vendors, local use curriculum sales, local homeschool support groups where you might be able to borrow curriculum for a weekend to examine. You can also craft your own classes. For example, my daughter was really into graphic design, and we had already purchased the Adobe suite of software for a community college web design class. So she then used that software to teach herself Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, and InDesign, and began designing t-shirts for our church mission trips She spent way more than 140 hours on all of that, so we counted that as 1 credit art course. Okay, so back to our sample students framework. For the math, the next step in the Saxon math progression is geometry, so that's what we'll note here. We're choosing to be specific since our student has already started with Saxon. And then we need a lab science. So we're just going to note physical science here because my student already did earth science in 8th grade. For history, the recommendation is state and US history, state and US government, and 2 courses in either world history or geography, or both. So I'm calling this World History 1. For world language, our natural progression is Spanish 2. For health and PE, we talked about doing a 60 to 70 hour class in 9th grade, and then a 60 to 70 hour class for art of some kind. Again, I'm not getting specific here, although I imagine if you're going through this exercise, you probably have some specific classes already chosen for 9th grade. Now, to speed things up for 10th through 12th grades, let me pull a filled-in framework so we can move through that more quickly. For 10th grade English, I'm suggesting American literature. We've got Saxon Algebra 2, which is next in the Saxon progression, biology, World History 2, Spanish 3. We're doing that half credit of health and PE, 60 to 70 hours, and the same for the fine arts, career, or tech ed. I'm proposing art 2, but it could be an automotive class, electrician class, sculpture class, or something like that. It could be anything in that subject area. In 11th grade, English 11, I'm saying British literature. For math, Saxon advanced math. For lab science, I'm saying chemistry. For history, I'm saying US history and state history, and Spanish 4. Now, they've already satisfied 3 world language credits, but in this example, my sample student wants to take Spanish again. This is where the flexibility of the framework comes in, because things will most likely change a bit from the original as time progresses and as you or your student learn new things or other opportunities open up. For health and PE, we previously had said a half a credit here and in 12th grade, but I, the parent, heard about a great dual enrolled health course that had to do with camping and hiking that my student would love. And when I talked to them about it, they said, yeah, they'd love to do that. So I'm actually going to do a full credit health and PE dual enrolled course in the 11th grade. Now, this did actually happen to me for my second daughter, but we didn't know about the course until 10th grade when we were getting more specific about 11th grade. Something I want to point out and make super clear, this is super, super important, is that a dual enrolled college semester class is equivalent to a full year high school class from a credit standpoint. So for example, the dual enrolled health camping hiking class is only a semester, but it's going to count as a full high school credit. Homeschoolers can get through a lot of coursework in 11th or 12th grade by dual enrolling because their semester course counts as a full high school course. So that's really important to understand. Okay, and then a computer science elective finishes out 11th grade, although for some states, certain computer science classes can be considered a math or a science course. Then in 12th grade, dual enrolled English, because why not? Get college credit and fulfill a high school credit at the same time, right? And remember, this is only a semester-long English 101 college class that is going to fulfill a full high school English credit. I didn't have a math originally here, but my sample student decided to take dual enrolled calculus at the community college. Also dual enrolled physics, AP US government, economics, they could do as dual enrolled, but in this case, we're choosing not to because my sample student likes the economics teacher at our local co-op. And personal finance is a class that they're doing with a homeschool teacher as well. Such a critical class for high schoolers to have, in my opinion. And then 2 electives left. I pulled out just some of the electives from the Loudoun County Public Schools Program of Studies for you to see here. The state program of studies can give you ideas of what your student might want to explore to gain some more breadth to their coursework. You can also take a look at the community college course listing for ideas because your student may want to take their electives at the community college or online if they're not locally available as a traditional homeschool class. Check out my video on earning college credit in high school for more insights into dual enrollment, choosing teachers, AP classes, and CLEP tests. So our sample student has chosen to do aerospace and robotics because they're interested in engineering, but they really could be anything for their electives. Now, you're not necessarily going to be that specific for 11th and 12th grade classes if your child is in 8th or 9th grade, but you'll get more specific when you update your plan as you approach the upcoming years. And do I think you should keep this plan up to date? Yes, because this is where I'm going to suggest you keep your grades also. take your time to go through this step 3. It's the most challenging. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comment section below. If you found this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to my channel so you get more videos on homeschooling high school. When you're ready, check out the last video in this workshop series, step 4, record keeping, and I'll see you over there.